Meeting to order.
Cindy Butts,
Here.
Heidi DeWinger,
Here.
Kylie Goslin.
Here.
Salem Mascara Bruno,
Here.
Lisa Tepper Bates, Greg Ugaldi.
Here.
Great. Okay, first on our agenda is Coleman Towers and Debbie to present.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I am here to present Coleman Towers in Stamford. This request is to approve a tax exempt bond loan of up to $28,070,000. The TEB loan will use a two-note structure. There will be a construction note in an amount of up to $6,148,450, paying interest only at a rate of up to 4.65% for a term of up to 24 months. And a permanent note in an amount up to $24 million, paying interest at a rate of up to 4.75%, paying at interest only for 24 months and converting to a fully amortizing permanent loan with a term of 40 years. This development is an existing 13-story family building in Stamford. It is currently a limited equity co-op and contains 89 units in a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. The applicant proposes to reconfigure the building into 67 studio, 39 one-bedroom, 22 bedroom, and 6 three-bedroom units for a new total of 132 units. 27 units will be targeted to households between 30% and 50% of area median income. 88 units will be targeted to households at or below 60% of area median income, and 17 units will be market rate. Amenities will include a fitness room and a rooftop deck. In addition to creating new units, the scope of work includes upgrading the mechanical systems, replacing the roof, windows, and flooring throughout the building, upgrading cabinets and counters in kitchens and bathrooms, and replacement of appliances. The development was built in 1971 and converted to a limited equity co-op in 1993. The co-op has been in financial trouble for many years, and the building has suffered from deferred maintenance. Currently, only 57 of the 89 units are occupied. Shareholders occupy 36 of those units, and renters occupy 21 units. 32 units are vacant. The condition of the vacant units ranges from needing cosmetic upgrades to being completely uninhabitable. The co-op's financial trouble began when it took out a Fannie Mae variable rate mortgage in 2008. The rate adjusted upwards and the co-op defaulted on the loan. Foreclosure proceedings began in 2011, and many residents stopped paying their carrying charges during this process. After several years of litigation, Fannie Mae agreed to forbear from enforcing the foreclosure judgment in return for a fixed payoff of the loan in an amount of $3.1 million. The co-op was unable to refinance the property to pay this debt and began looking for a buyer for the property. By Connecticut statute, 80% of the members that are eligible to vote in a limited equity co-op must ratify a decision to terminate the co-op and sell the property. A termination agreement and property transfer agreement dated November 18th of 2018 was ratified by more than 80% of the members and recorded in the Stamford land records. It was important to the co-op board to find a buyer that would not take the property market rate, which would force the residents to relocate. There are currently no affordability restrictions in place at the property, but the applicant has agreed to preserve 87% of the units as affordable housing so that the current low and moderate income residents may remain. The applicant will acquire the property, pay off the existing debt, which includes the Fannie Mae loan and 9 years of delinquent taxes and utility charges, and the property will be converted to a rental. The developer is a partnership between MLK Real Estate Capital, which is a commercial real estate investment banking firm based in New York City, and Navarino Capital Management, which is the investment arm of Navarino Property Group. Navarino Property Group is a multifamily owner-operator that has close to 3,000 units, mostly in Connecticut. None of the properties are currently in the CHFA portfolio, but one called Dwight Gardens in New Haven was financed with a CHAMP award from DOH in 2015. I visited the property and I spoke with many of the residents, and they are all very pleased with this developer and how they've provided open communication and really taken their needs into consideration. All of the residents are really looking forward to working with them on this renovation. The general contractor will be Construction Resources LLC, also known as CORE. CHFA projects completed by CORE include Threadmill Apartments in Stonington and Clinton Commons and Cherry Street Lofts in Bridgeport. CORE has a comprehensive COVID-19 safety plan in place and will comply with the residents' wish that face coverings continue to be worn inside the building. The architect is Charles Georgie Associates of Milford. The architect has not worked on a CHFA-funded project before, but has worked on projects nationwide. The architect also worked with the developer on many projects, including the Dwight Gardens project that was financed by DOH. There are no project-based rental subsidies or supportive housing units expected in the building. Work will take place by floor, and all the units on the floor will be vacant. As units are completed, residents will be moved to a new unit with the same layout that they currently have, and most residents will only have to be moved once. Strengths of this transaction include the creation of 132 units of income-restricted affordable housing, which will be added to CHFA's portfolio, as well as the updating of a deteriorating building. The transaction does not require the use of DOH or other state funding, and the underwriting projections show a very strong cash flow for the life of the loan. Challenges include the risk of unforeseen conditions when renovating an existing building, as well as the ongoing challenges associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. Mitigating factors for these challenges. As I mentioned, CORE has a strong COVID-19 protocol in place, which includes the usual social distancing, frequent cleaning of surfaces and tools, and the use of masks and other personal protective equipment. Renovation will be performed in vacant units, and there will also be a designated entrance and elevator for construction use only, so there will be little contact between construction workers and residents. The proposed construction costs have been calculated by bids from subcontractors and already include increases in material costs. There is a construction contingency of over $2 million, as well as the ability to defer developer fee if necessary to fund any cost overruns. In addition to CHFA standard closing conditions, this loan will be conditioned upon CHFA sizing the final permanent loan amount at the time of rate lock to the maximum amount the property can support within established underwriting guidelines, and that is not to exceed $24 million. Are there any questions?
I have the environmental study been done? Because this is a building of age that, lead paint, et cetera, asbestos.
Yes, environmental studies were done. They were evaluated by CHFA's third-party environmental consultant. The CHFA's consultant also did a site visit out there and was satisfied that the report was comprehensive and everything was either already taken care of. Some windows and doors were already replaced and caulking replaced in the past, and they were satisfied that there were not any major environmental concerns.
Okay. Any other questions? Who are the principals of Navarino? I haven't heard of them.
Navarino is Justin Goldberg, and MLK Real Estate is Saul Kinreich.
Yeah.
We've not
So
worked with
Debbie,
them
when-
before. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you know them, Greg?
I definitely have heard of them. I mean, I think that this is something they're trying to get into some of this work. It looks interesting because, Debbie, you said there's 32 vacant now, and some of those are in disrepair, but it looks like the plan is comprehensive to include rehabbing those. The new total, 132, how does it look? Is there a demand out there? It seems, I guess, in this area, there's probably plenty of demand to fill all the units when they're ready. Is that how it looks?
Yeah, the market study supports adequate demand to fill those units. It's very close to downtown Stamford. It's really a nice location. It's across from a park.
Is there parking there at all? They have a parking structure?
Actually, they do, they have, I don't think it's a structure. It's like, there's a portico and some parking underneath it, and then there's another level that it like goes up the hill, and there's another level with parking.
Yeah, I can't picture it. I'm sure I've passed it 1,000 times. I just can't picture exactly where it is. I mean, I see the map and everything. It just, okay.
For any
It's next
upgrades
to
to-
Trinity Park, which we also financed, if you're familiar with that one.
Sure.
Mm.
Okay.
Is it, my
Ask
question
Webster's.
is
Go ahead.
this a large amount of money for a comparable property that might be financed? It seems like a tremendous amount of money for the number of units to me, but I don't have the experience of knowing what this would normally cost. It seems really high for the number of units.
I mean, I think it would be, as Debbie mentioned, the developer has included cost escalation in their numbers. So it is looking a little bit more expensive than we would typically see. But again, that's again because they're including those allowances, given what we're seeing with the volatile materials market.
Well, and I think anytime you're building things like fitness centers in something, I mean, a vacation condo that I own, we intentionally don't have a fitness center because the liability, the cost, the insurance, all of it. So I even get concerned, this amount of money plus a fitness center, I am not feeling very supportive of this.
Well, this is more units. They're creating more units than there currently exists in the property. So that's a plus.
Right,
My
but
guess
it might be at $300,000 a unit. I mean, if you do the math.
Right, no, and that is the cost, and that's how it lays out. I think most of our projects, that is in the range, but Nandia, do you want to talk to that? I think that this is, renovations are no less expensive, nor usually more expensive than it built from ground up.
Yeah, Masuda, did you want to weigh in on that at all? You might have better data than I do about, but you're right, Heidi, $300,000 is in the range. I don't know specifically whether this is on the higher side for a renovation, but I would imagine that it's probably within, the range we see, for this type of work.
And the 43 new units.
Right.
Correct. Correct. There's new units being added. They're also doing major renovation of the existing units. This property is under significant disrepair. So it is, like I said, the per unit cost is definitely within the range that we see. This is also, Stamford is land cost. It's an expensive part of the state. So that was also contributing. But this is also an important preservation project to be able to have 132 affordable units. It's an important, from that perspective, it's an important development to be able to bring tax credit units in Stamford.
I'm not going to justify the developer decisions, but having a gym is usually a small room in a corner that can't be converted to a unit, right? A residential unit. So the cost of those, the initial equipment and the rest, the liability is a totally different issue. And I appreciate that. But usually the fitness center is an afterthought because you can't do anything else with this, small space. But I'm not sure if that's the case here.
Well, I think that the developer was also looking to create some amenity space for the residents.
Yeah.
So I think, again, that was another, kind of thought for them in terms of making the units more desirable.
Mm-hmm. I think that the other positive that I saw was the strong cash flow, right? The numbers are compelling. from a rent versus the debt costs.
And this is Kylie. I just want to chime in, although I too find the 300,000, and I know it's within the range
Right.
for CHFA and other state projects, like it's a gut punch, right? I'm sitting here in Hartford saying, even with the real estate market being what it is, there are still properties, single family homes with multiple bedrooms available under that $300,000 price here. But I think we have to look at where this is. And I think it's important to note that the need for affordable housing in this state is strongest in Fairfield County, that's where our low and moderate income folks, especially lower wage workers, are struggling the most to find units. And so where it's always going to be a more expensive place to build, as are, a lot of metropolitan areas, right? The acquisition costs and all that are typically higher. And here, this rehab costs are going to drive this up, along with the time frame in which we're building, where we're seeing materials costs. So while I echo Cindy's concerns about the cost per unit here being very high, I think getting units in the area is critical. And this is an opportunity to get a good number of units in a place where they're sorely needed.
And as Debbie had mentioned, on my site visit to the property, I met with one of the longtime residents, and they are very excited about the prospect of the renovation. So they are fully supportive as well, which is important.
This
I
is
mean,
Lisa.
they
I just
obviously,
wanna,
they obviously
pick up-
would be.
Hi, I'm sorry. This is Lisa. I just wanted to pick up also on what Kylie was saying about the need for affordable housing, very specifically in Fairfield County. As you may all be familiar, the United Ways of Connecticut do the ALICE project, which helps us to understand cost of living in Connecticut and in specific communities across Connecticut. And in Fairfield County, it's fairly eye-popping, and I'd be glad to share any of this data with any of you interested. But for a two-parent family with two small children in Fairfield County, it costs them $115,000 a year to make ends meet. A very significant portion of that is the housing. So just wanted to put that out there as additional evidence to the
We lost your audio.
While she's hopping back on, Heidi, I was just going to also mention what I'd like to see, the 2 million contingency in, we talked a little bit at the beginning about supply chain and the difficulties there. That contingency is nice. And then there was also mentioned that the contractor's line item is fair game as well. So they're prepared to see this through and protect against what holdup they could have, which is a good thing.
Right. And I'm assuming we look at the financial wherewithal of the owners, the buyers, to vet them as well.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Any more comments? Questions, concerns?
I'll just
Okay.
add that the site is very tight, and I think some of the cost has to do with the costs, around that, trying to do the construction. It's on a one-way street. It's kind of narrow. They're going to need a crane because it is a high rise. So some of the costs are attributed to that as well.
Right, right. They probably have to have all sorts of monitors and outside construction people.
Right.
Okay, anybody else?
I just want to add that Masuda and I had a conversation with the city. We talked to their zoning folks, and they were really anxious for this development to be rehabbed and repositioned. It's been in disrepair for a long time, as Masuda said earlier, and I think it's going to, really reposition this building and, make it habitable for the residents as well as for new folks who are going to move in. So I think it's a good preservation project.
Thank you. Okay, Shelley, should we, do we have a motion first?
I'll make that motion that we approve as submitted.
Okay, is there a
Kylie, I'll
second?
second that.
Okay, all right, Shelley,
Cindy Butts,
No.
Heidi DeWinger,
aye.
Kylie Gosselin,
Aye.
Salem Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates. Don't think she rejoined. Greg Ugalde,
Yes.
motion carries, one dissension.
Does Cindy, should she give an explanation for a no vote, or do we not do that? Do we want,
We don't have to.
okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, next up on our agenda is 323 Fairfield Ave at Bijou Square. Masuda to present.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of Mortgage Committee. 323 Fairfield at Bijou Square is an 84-unit mixed income development located in Bridgeport. 11 of the units are assisted under the home program that was funded by the city of Bridgeport. These units are restricted at serving households earning up to 50 and 60% of AMI. There are also 39 units targeted to households earning up to 120% of AMI. These units are supported by a land use restriction that was with the Department of Community and Economic Development. The first floor of the building contains 7 commercial spaces. CHFA provided a first mortgage loan totaling $12 million in 2009 and a $2.2 million subordinate deferred loan using the Community Investment Account. Housing Development Fund, HDF, which is a CDFI based in Stamford, they provided a co-first mortgage totaling about $1,930,000. They're also acting as the servicer on the CHFA loans. The overall financing of this transaction came together as part of revitalizing downtown Bridgeport and bringing housing into Bridgeport. So this is kind of a unique transaction for CHFA. It's outside of our core business, but at that time there was the need to be able to respond and assist the community. So as a result of how the financing was put together, CHFA doesn't have a covenant of compliance or regulatory agreement on this property. So when this development was put together, they received a 7-year property tax exemption from the city of Bridgeport. That exemption ended in 2017. So real estate taxes in the last 3 years have been hovering around $350,000, which is causing negative cash flow, as you can see in the numbers below. The operations were further impacted by the pandemic due to high vacancies and increased operating costs. In spring of 2020, the owner approached CHFA about getting relief under the forbearance, the COVID-19 forbearance program that CHFA had put together. And then subsequently, when we started analyzing their financials, we discovered that they're having issues beyond the COVID. So as part of that, they entered into a pre-workout agreement to restructure the loans. So while those conversations were taking place on the restructure, the owner received an offer to sell the property for $17,250,000. Additionally, one of the partners passed away, so the owner made the decision to proceed with selling the property, and then began negotiating with the various lenders on some concession in order to make the sale happen. So kind of where we are today, the city of Bridgeport has agreed to reduce their original loan of $1.2 million to $540,000. The affordability restrictions will remain in place for an additional 9 years. HDF is also waiving their accrued interest and late charges and prepayment penalty totaling about $86,000. So we are asking Mortgage Committee to accept the prepayment on the CHFA first mortgage loan, waive the accrued interest on the CIA loan, which is approximately $861,000, including late fees and prepayment fees to assist with the sale. The property, as I mentioned, will continue to comply with the restrictions on the home units. Our current contractor, Spectrum, will be going out and doing the regulatory compliance oversight. The DECD units, those will be continued to remain affordable for another 19 years, and that will be administered directly by DECD. So this approach, what it does, it allows CHFA to maximize our recovery from an underperforming asset. In addition, we're able to preserve the affordability on these units. So with that said, we also have staff available to answer any questions for you.
Masuda, I'm sorry, this is Lisa. Could you just break down again? Some of the units will be affordable only for 9 more years. How many is that?
So there are, those are the home assisted units. Let me just look at my numbers here. There are 11 units that were funded through the home program. And there are 39 units that were under the DECD land use restrictive agreement.
And so Masuda, do we feel pretty good about the fact that we're only getting that additional 9 years, because it's fairly certain that those will fall off of affordability at that mark? But is that as good an arrangement as you believe is possible here?
Yeah, this was the best arrangement that we could work with the owner. The 39 units, again, those will remain affordable. This is kind of a unique situation. This is not a typical affordable housing deal. So we feel, this is a win-win situation. We're able to maximize our recovery. The cost of going through a restructure, we don't exactly know what the outcome is going to look like. This way, we're able to preserve the affordability as well as, reach an agreement to make the sale happen. From what we know, the purchaser of this property they recently sold a multifamily development, so they're in the process of doing a 1031 exchange. They're a motivated purchaser, and speaking with the owner, they feel that this purchaser is going to be a good neighbor. The owner will continue to own some other properties in Bijou Square. So the property overall is in really good physical condition. Again, this deal just didn't really have a lot of affordability to begin with. So again, we feel like this is a good solution to move forward and mitigate CHFA's financial exposure.
So I have a question. Biden is working against 1031 exchanges. If the law passes, it doesn't allow those to happen. Can this move forward if a 1031 becomes not an option?
Well, they have already sold their existing property, so I don't know when the law would take effect. But at this point, yeah, they're ready to make the exchange.
So that would be soon.
It would be very soon
because it might be a race against the clock for that.
Correct.
So it seems like everyone's taking a little bit of pain to make this happen. Is that sort of accurate?
That is correct.
The city and CHFA and HDF.
Yes, that is correct. All those parties are coming to the table with some relief in order to make this happen.
I have a question on the tax abatement situation. I know this, I saw this happen a lot in the city where properties that had tax abatements, in some cases it was planned that it would be phased out. In other cases, there's sort of poor financial planning on the part of the property owner or manager to account for the drop off of that tax abatement agreement. What was the situation in this case with you said the tax agreement phased out in 2017 with the city? Was there an attempt by the owner to reach out in advance of that to craft a new extension agreement or not?
My understanding is that the owner had reached out to the city for the abatement and extension, and they were not successful in getting that. But we do have staff available. I don't know if there's anything else, Mentor or Wendy, John, that you want to add.
I do think the expectation was in this particular case, because it was predominantly market, that the rents, particularly the commercial rents, would escalate over time so they could afford the taxes.
Yep.
So I think initially this abatement plan was one that was anticipated that would be successful, but ultimately, the commercial rents in Bridgeport really haven't risen as they projected, and
Gotcha.
that may be the case with the market apartments as well.
And I think this is actually a good mix of affordable and market, given where it is, and given the fact that, as we've talked about, I feel like ad nauseum, many of our cities have a large amount of deed restricted properties, and Bridgeport's one of those. Or I don't have the appeals list in front of me, but I want to say it's in the 20% plus range. So I like seeing this kind of mix where there's some affordable mixed in with more market rate stuff. I think that's appropriate for this area. So I just wanted to note that, since I think it was raised earlier.
Just a few comments. I have to say that the staff at CHFA worked really hard to make sure that we got the best deal possible. They came with an ask of just basically write off the $2.2 million because it was public funding, and they stood steady not to let that go because they needed to pay. The city of Bridgeport is pretty difficult in taxes, and I can tell you for a fact that they usually do a 4 or 6 years, and then it will take you 5 years before you can get another abatement or another relief on taxes. So that probably is what put them in this situation. Plus they were asking for forbearance, so the loan wasn't performing. And this is actually a great outcome that we are getting the loans paid back, both the soft loan and the mortgage.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not, I understand that tax abatement agreements are often crafted in the case of affordable housing developments as sort of a necessary financing tool, but it also is one more way in which our cities sort of, take a hit, if you will, in being willing to develop affordable housing, yet not receiving equivalent property taxes for that. So I don't want to suggest that I was just more curious in the sense of were the owners responsible in reaching out and sort of on top of the game, or was it, something else? And it sounds like they were, but the city is, I think, probably appropriately trying to ensure that they're getting taxes for what is largely market rate property.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve it as submitted.
I'll
Thanks,
second
Greg.
it.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Shelley?
Cindy Butts,
Yes.
Heidi DeWinger,
Aye.
Kylie Goslin,
Yes.
Salem Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Tepper Bates,
Yes.
Greg Ugaldi,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up are the minutes to last mortgage committee. Anybody have any comments, changes, omissions? They looked okay to me. Is there a motion to approve or accept? I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Cindy
Shelley?
Butts,
Yes.
Heidi DeWinger,
We're having communication issues.
Heidi, I'm in favor.
It was hard. You were cutting out, at least from my perspective.
Heidi,
Yeah, approved.
Kylie Goslin,
Yes.
Salem Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Ugaldi,
Aye.
unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, multifamily activities. Wendy,
Good morning, everyone.
good morning.
The second year of the development engagement process, the DEP, as we've referred to it, was announced at the end of last month. DOH, in collaboration with CHFA, put out a notice that proposals from developers for new construction, rehab or preservation transactions can be submitted. They're due next week, the 29th. As part of that, CHFA is also making available some gap financing through the Opportunity Fund and the Affordable Housing Fund. Both funds are available to fund $1 million or less, and guidelines for the use of those funds are posted on the website as well as the notice of applications for the HTCC funds were due June 1st. 34 applications were received, and the total ask is $15 million. And if you recall, we have 10 million available, and staff has begun the review of those applications. During May, there was one initial closing and one final closing that occurred. And in June, the multifamily department had staff that attended a symposium hosted by the Coalition for Elder Justice in Connecticut on advocating through adversity. This week, the NCSHA Housing Credit Connect Conference has been happening, and we have staff participating in that conference, and they'll share what they learn with the rest of the multifamily team. We continue to monitor the industry for relief that's being offered due to COVID-19. And in May, we posted some updated guidance from the IRS for developers that are developing low-income housing tax credit properties and are maybe seeking extensions or relief due to COVID. Approximately 18,000 still remains in the HACCP program. We haven't received any new applications for that money. And then the chart at the end of the report lists some projects that will be presented to the committee in the next couple months. Are there any questions?
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, that's all we have on our agenda. So I guess we can adjourn the committee and dial back in for the 10 o'clock meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanks, Greg.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, see you in a few.